Hello and welcome to the Untitled channel, and today I want to show you guys my brand new $500 gaming PC called Spectre, aka the next best bang for your buck gaming PC that allow you to do all the cool things like gaming, streaming, editing, and VR all in a really nice good looking package for 500 bucks. Spectre, I'd say by far is one of my most successful budget gaming PC builds yet, because as you can see from the title, it can do a lot of cool things for the price. I remember when I was first getting into PC gaming, I wanted my first PC to do a lot of stuff, in a nice price range that couldn't destroy my bank account. So that's why in this video I tested some more things like VR, editing, and streaming. So if you guys want to start up your next little YouTube gig or get into Twitch streaming, all that sort of stuff, I wanted to make sure that I could test those variables in this video so you guys can get a good idea of what this $500 beast can do. That's why in this video I'm going to be covering the specs of this computer and why I chose them, the overall price, of course the gaming benchmarks all at 1080p, VR gaming performance, the streaming performance, and even the editing performance when compared to my own personal gaming PC. And then next weekend I'll be having a step-by-step tutorial come out on the channel showing you how to build Spectre using a cool GoPro perspective, and I mean you'll be able to build Spectre once next weekend comes. So definitely press the subscribe button if you haven't so you can make sure that you get that video in your sub box. Me and Melly, the person who's editing this video, are putting a lot of love and support into this project, so it'd be great if you guys can give us some feedback in the likes and comments of this video and let us know what videos you guys want to see from the future. I mean, not gonna lie, we're maybe a little bit in the dumpster in terms of views. I mean, could be the algorithm, say what you want, but regardless, we're putting in a lot into this video, so anything you can give back for support would be much appreciated, because me and Melly love making these cool PC build videos for you guys. So we just want to give our thanks again, and just anything you can give back in terms of feedback in the comments and likes, again, would be much appreciated. And I should say, along with that, we're actually starting up an Instagram page now at Scattervolt. So if you want to check that out and see all the cool stuff I posted, definitely give that a follow. That'll be in the description below. And there might be a chance that I'll actually be giving away this $500 Spectre gaming PC exclusively on my Instagram page. So, stay tuned for that. You might want to give it a follow because that could possibly happen. Okay, so the parts of the $500 Spectre gaming PC. First, I like to talk about the quad-core 2200G processor that we have chose from the AMD Ryzen lineup. This is a quad-core, it's overclockable, it's only got 4 threads, but it's $95. Fantastic price, and for what we want, which is going to be great 1080p gaming, a little bit of streaming and editing on the other side of your computer, it's going to be able to do that. And plus it's on that AM4 platform, which will be compatible with future generations of Ryzen, especially with that upcoming 3rd generation of Ryzen 3 processors, which are going to destroy everything I'd hopefully think in its path in terms of gaming. So that's going to be a great choice for this build. For the motherboard, I've got the ASUS B450 Prime motherboard. This is a micro ATX board. It looks nice, it looks neat, it's for a pretty decent price tag, and really all I wanted was just a nice looking motherboard that'll be able to hold our processor and be able to support our graphics card that we'll be shoving into this build. So really I just wanted to make sure that it's just a solid, easy, compatible motherboard to use. Next, I've got 8GB of PATRIOT Viper Elite memory, and may I say this might be one of the best RAM kits you can get for the $50 price range that look fantastic, but also have the clock speed to back up for it, because this actually right out of the box runs at 6600 megahertz, which is the fastest speed you can have RAM run at without overclocking your processor to go higher than that, which is a great thing because having a higher RAM speed always equates in more gaming performance. So for $57, that's a pretty awesome steal, and it looks awesome in our computer as well. And now for the storage, and something different in this gaming PC build is that I'm going with a 240GB inland SSD. Now, SSDs have gone really cheap. I can't ignore them no longer, and I feel comfortable having this SSD in the build. Yes, it's 240 gigabytes, but that's still enough, as you can see from the screenshots. It's still enough to hold Fortnite, Adobe Premiere, all of your apps, and I mean, you still got some leftover room for other cool things, especially with that video render that I have on the side. So I think that's still enough, and plus if you did want more memory, you could just shove the extra excess you have from that SSD onto a future hard drive later on. But I mean, really, it's a $32 SSD. That's gonna be a great deal, especially for this budget-oriented computer. Next, for the graphics card, and my favorite part, I have the Gigabyte Aorus RX 570. Now, this is a 4GB card model. Don't get that mixed up with the 8GB, but this guy can run games, and it's for a good price right now. This is gonna be the backbone behind your gaming PC. It's what's gonna run your games at 1080p, as well as assist in streaming, and maybe a little bit of editing if you wanna use that AMD hardware for that. So it's just a great overall card for 1080p gaming, and you'll see from the benchmarks that it most definitely shows. And the cool thing about this card is that it has some really nice looks. It has a little RGB flare, and the back plate looks pretty mean. So it's a great card for 160 bucks, which is why I included it in this build. And now for the case, I chose the DEEPCOOL MATREXX 5.5. Now, a lot of people have already covered this case, and I was curious, and I just wanted to check it out for myself and see how it looked with this gaming PC, and oh my goodness, it looks awesome. I totally get I've used awesome like at least 6 times in this video, but I really mean it. This computer looks fantastic with those RGB colors that the fans provide, as well as all of the great aesthetics with the case size, the glass, and that's only for like what, $40? I mean, that's a pretty awesome case steal. Now, admittedly, I did add some extra fans to the front, but you can add those on later on if you wanted to, but regardless, it's a fantastic looking case for the price, especially for $40. And finally, we needed a power supply, so I chose the 500 watt EVGA 80 plus white power supply. It's 40 bucks. Power supplies are a little bit expensive on Amazon at the moment, so for $40, I would say it's not too shabby, but it's by a reliable power supply manufacturer, that being EVGA, so I definitely have my trust in them. I've had no issues with any of their power supplies whatsoever. So those are the specs, and now let's go ahead and get right into those gaming benchmarks that all you guys are really looking forward to. So here they are. So that was a big chunk of games, and I want to go ahead and bring some highlights and some of the best things I found as far as what Spectre did with certain games on this PC. Battlefield 5 really surprised me. That was at ultra settings. It acquired an average of, I believe, 78 frames per second. And I mean, for being a 2018 AAA title and having this budget PC already run it at ultra settings is quite the accomplishment. That could just go for the AMD optimization as far as the RX 570 and 2200G goes. But regardless, fantastic game for this computer. So if you're looking at running Battlefield, definitely check it out on Spectre. And of course, Rainbow Six Siege, it's a kind of an old title, but you can literally crank up the settings past the VRAM amount on this computer and you'll still have a very flawless FPS boastful experience. So Rainbow Six Siege is not going to be a problem at all in Spectre. So that's good. Of course, I can't forget about my personal favorite game on the list, Forza Horizon 4. That game ran pretty much at 60 frames per second with no lag, no sort of stuttering. Though it can't go above 60 frames per second because it's locked at that. The game can go above that, but I mean, hey, it fit the mark, it looks great, and it runs really awesome on Spectre. So that's it for Forza Horizon 4. And of course, we can't forget about everyone else's favorite game, Fortnite, which runs at a I'd say a pretty standard 67 frames per second, but at epic settings. And I'd say compared to my other budget gaming PC builds, Spectre might be one of the faster ones to actually run that game, and that's probably attributed to the new Adrenaline drivers for the RX 570. So for those of you who are looking into getting to Fortnite as well as streaming it, because we got streaming benchmarks coming up next, Fortnite will not be an issue at all. So that's good for Spectre. The only game that disappointed me, which I've been recently enjoying, was No Man's Sky. Now that could just be due to the optimization of the game and so forth, but it only got 45 frames per second, and it was a stuttery, choppy experience, which tells me it's either that's a bad game to run on Spectre, or Spectre isn't power enough to run that game, considering that it was running it at low settings. So I've got mixed opinions on that game. On my personal PC, No Man's ran fine, but it's a $500 computer. Can't do everything, but it can still do quite a bit. So those were the gaming benchmarks, and now let's talk about the streaming benchmarks. I only tested one game for this, that being Fortnite, because I know all of you who are going to be talking about the streaming benchmarks just want to basically run Fortnite. So here I have the game running at 720p, outputting at 60 frames per second. I attempted streaming the game at 1080p while also running at 1080p, but it was a very choppy, laggy experience, and I would not recommend it. It wouldn't look good on your Twitch channel. But if you want to say run the game at 1080p on your computer, but then stream it at 720p through that X264 encoding, you will get about 60 frames per second, maybe a little bit below that, like about 57 to 55 at certain times. But still, if you wanted to stream just with the computer without any assistance from any sort of hardware like an Elgato card or something like that, you can stream, but it will be at 720p, right below 60 frames per second. It doesn't look bad, but say if you wanted to get a little bit into streaming and you didn't have much money, then Spectre could stream right out of the box for you. So VR benchmarks. I really wanted to include these because a good amount of you have been asking for it, and I wanted to please those of you who've asked. And so I provided some really cool, super hot and onward gameplay. And can this PC do VR? Yes, absolutely. Onward, even completely maxed out, ran on Spectre, also known as a $500 computer. Kind of, weird for a budget gaming PC to do that. And of course, Super Hot doesn't have any settings, but it ran at a crazy high frame rate. And really, for the most part, when it comes to VR, from my personal experience, and actually I've dove into this before with another video covering how a GTX 1050 can run VR games, I feel like the requirements for VR are a little bit overinflated. So I feel like with a lot of PC games out there, especially in the VR section, you won't actually have that much of an issue running them on Spectre. Of course, if you decide to completely max them out, then yeah, you could run into some things. But that RX 570 and quad-core processor, especially when overclocked, will be able to handle quite a few VR games. So definitely don't feel bad if you feel like you can't run VR on this computer. You probably can. And finally, I want to show you guys some editing benchmarks. So for those of you who want to start your own little YouTube gig or want to continue it, I will say that editing can be possible on Spectre. It's not the best, of course, when compared to my super powerful personal gaming PC, but it can render. It's got 8 gigs of RAM, a quad-core processor, and you have that RX 570 to assist within editing. So it's going to do a decent job. Of course, not the best, like what many of the YouTubers who you watch are able to do, but it's still going to do a really fantastic job, especially for $500. So conclusion time. What are the pros of Spectre from what I've had so far from using him over the break? I'd say the first thing is that I really adore the looks, especially for the price, and along with that, the upgradability that the AM4 platform can provide. It's going to be really great for Ryzen 3rd gen, especially if you guys want to upgrade to that later, or even, you know, if you wanted to say upgrade to 4th gen, if that is going to be happening on the same socket. It probably will, because AMD said they'll commit to the AM4 socket till about 2020, so you're still going to be good in terms of upgradability and future proofing on the computer. But regardless, it's the AMD platform. They're doing really great right now, so I'd stick to it. Of course, the looks, as I was saying before, are great on this computer. You have those really cool RGB fans that are used through the built-in RGB controller on the case. And of course, there are more expensive variants of the DEEPCOOL MATREXX 5.5 if you want to look into those. So in terms of the looks department, I'd say you'd be able to fool a lot of people into thinking that this computer is worth more than $500. And obviously, the very versatile gaming performance. All the games on this benchmarking list were run quite well in terms of frames per second. A lot of them were above 60 frames, especially when maxed out or close to being maxed out. So definitely in terms of the gaming realm, this is very much a possibility on Spectre. You're going to be able to play almost everything on the PC gaming market. There may be a few exceptions like No Man's Sky or the next super high-end AAA title like Metro Exodus whenever that comes out. But even for like Battlefield 5, that ran at ultra settings. So in terms of gaming performance, I would give 5 stars as far as what Spectre can offer. And now the cons. And really, I only have one major con with this computer, and that is the case variant that I have chosen. Now, yes, the MATREXX 5.5 is $40, which is a fantastic price. However, it doesn't come with those 3 RGB fans in the front, and if you want those, that's going to be an additional $30 on top of that $40 purchase, which can be purchased in its own case. And I would actually recommend that because it eliminates the hassle of having to install those 3 RGB fans, which I had to do, and it was a time waster. But hey, if you get that variant, you won't have to deal with it, and it's already connected and hooked up correctly. So that's one thing I would recommend, which would bring the total of this computer over $500 to about $534. But would I recommend it? Yes. So that is a con, but I'd say it's a worthy addition and definitely a good $30 to spend on top of the case purchase. So that is it for my $500 Spectre gaming PC build video. If you enjoy this kind of PC build video, then I recommend looking at the Scatterworld Discord server, which is a server where we talk about cool tech stuff, gaming PC parts, a lot of the stuff you see in these videos. So a link to that will be in the description below. And yet again, if you're interested in curiosities on my Instagram, that is also located in the description. And yet again, thank you so much for watching this video. And if you enjoy these PC build videos, then definitely subscribe to the Scatterworld YouTube channel, because this is what we're all about: budget gaming PC builds and helping you guys out and getting into your PC gaming at as low of a cost as possible. And with that being said, this is the Scatterworld channel signing out.